Welcome to the Isuzu Ute A-League download. Thomas Sorensen, Archie Thompson here. Welcome, chaps. How are we?
Yeah, really good. Really good. You're feeling good, mate? You had a good win on the weekend?
Big win against Epping City, 5-3.
First game of the season?
First game of the season. It's
Always good to
nice
start
to
well.
remember those injuries that you had forgotten about for the past 9 months. I'm now stuck to this chair, and this is I won't be able to get up.
Carry him into the studio.
This is my pose. Anyway, it was a glorious win, and I could talk about it for hours, but there is nothing like playing football. Never stop playing, however old you get. Right, let's start with Auckland. They beat Perth Glory 1-0. They've won the plate. They'd already won it before the game kicked off. But, you know, it was sort of fitting that Auckland won that game in a way that Auckland have won all their games this season, Thomas.
Yeah, you know, again, I think there was an Oliver Sale last stand. You know, he had a great game, and at least, you know, kept Perth in it for quite a while. You know, Max Matter had several chances, and then it comes from a corner, just a straight. There must have been a whirlwind blowing. In
I thought Ollie Sale. I don't want to blame him because he had such a good game, and actually sometimes the corner's just really well struck, or is it always?
You know what,
your
when you
fault?
look at the flight of the ball, you know, it's not one of them that sort of from the start hangs under the bar and you sort of get tangled. It was quite far out, and then it just swung in, and he did get caught up in a bit of traffic. I think I don't know if he thought he could come for it, and then suddenly it just passed you, and you do look a bit stupid, but you know what? Give the taker and the wind a bit of credit.
Yeah. And Francois, I mean, that was his first goal too. I think he's been fantastic for Auckland. He's come back from overseas, and he's been electric. They've got some really great young, talented players, especially out in the wide areas. But like I said, I mean, could it be easy to come into these sort of games knowing that you already won and then kind of go through the motions? But you could actually see that they really wanted to win for their fans. And I mean, when you look at their set pieces, they've scored 18 goals, I think, from set pieces, which is such a key when you're looking for goals, and you can rely on something a little bit different. And I mean, it's 409 days since the start of that club, and to already win trophies. And I think one it might have been the chairman or something made a bold prediction saying they're going to win trophies in the first 3 years. I didn't see
that was
in the first
the owner. He said within 3 years.
And bang! I mean, they've got a real great chance of taking the whole thing. But the funny thing about our sport here, when it comes to finals football, the team that wins it gets easily forgotten if someone wins a grand final. So it'd be a bit of a shame if they don't go on and something.
And again, they go in next week. They have to go to Western United, who has plenty to play for. And then, you know, I know they had a big party. I've heard from there. So I had a big party, and rightly so. But sometimes it's sort of, you know, you can lose a bit of momentum. You know, you get a little bit sidetracked.
But can you rest everyone? You know, it's not like 5 games to go.
I don't think
it's
you
just
should.
one.
And also they'll have 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think for them it's about momentum, because you don't want to go there, get beat 2 or 3-0, and then you have 2 weeks to wait for, you know, to play a two-legged. Obviously, you have the home advantage in. I think it's the last game you play at home.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, you want to keep that momentum, because as Archie said, it's sometimes better to have that. You know, you win last day of the season, you know, and then you have another game, and suddenly you can gain that bit of momentum. So you know, it'd be interesting to see how they handle it, but you know, they've handled everything this season. So I think Steve Corica will have them fired up and you know, focused for next week.
A word on Steve Corica. I mean, the job, like he couldn't have done better.
Yeah, I mean, from starting from scratch, I mean, it's hard enough having an established squad and trying to, win a trophy. But when you're actually trying to pick players, and also too, it's not even as them as players, it's how do they mould into a change room and build a culture. It's so hard to manufacture.
Well, they've got to build the changing room and then build the culture in the changing room that they built.
And you can't manufacture cultures just overnight. So, but for him to do it really quickly like that, I think that just says a lot about how he manages and why he had success at Sydney FC. It was time for him to obviously move on, and then to have success so early at Auckland, I think just shows how unbelievable his manager skills are.
Yeah, I think definitely from the start, the strategy has been really smartly laid out. Obviously, focusing on getting New Zealand players, local players as a core, and then trying to add and embed Gallegos, Mata, the Moreno. So they've had foreign players. That sometimes it can be difficult because, and that's why I think the early success was so important, because then that gels everyone. Everyone gets excited. You got the fans, and then everyone wants to be a part of it. So yeah, I think the strategy was smart, and then obviously the success has sort of just bred the rest of it all the way through the season.
And it's always, I think, for a team or Auckland, you want to sign, like, you immediately think, we're going to sign a striker. Let's sign a striker, excite. But it looks like they started from the defence, really got that solid, and then started to build from there. And because, you set a good foundation, which they have all year. I mean, that defence has been incredible.
Hall, he's obviously been out for, and then obviously Paulson's
been brilliant. And actually that was what was great about that was like nicking him from Wellington to like, because you can't, like you say, you can't force these things. Does create a bit of a spark of a rivalry. Yeah. And then you go and beat them, and then beat them again. And then you think, well, and then again. and actually,
and then win the league.
But what is great as well is when you see those pictures and you see a stadium that is full with fans having a brilliant time. And it's not in every stadium. They're not all full, and it's what we're desperate to see. And so that is a credit to everyone. Of course, results help, right? Yeah. If they were halfway down the league, who knows? But it's huge credit to everyone behind the scenes.
I think, overall, it's been a good blueprint for, how to create a new market for further franchises hopefully to come.
And when you talk about crowds, I mean, their average crowd, I think, was 18,000 all season. And even there was a period where they weren't even winning games or drawing. So, and they were still coming. I mean, they came, the weather was terrible yesterday. I mean, during the game, and the fans, the fans were still there. Sometimes that deters people, but you can see how excited they were to be there when the team lifted the trophy.
And is there anyone else you'd like to pick out from this side, for the Auckland side?
Oh, I mean,
I think and again, I think you said it. With Francois, I think the squad has played. You've had. Gillian even came in this game, and so he was great early in the season. Then he sort of, I think he was injured, and you can obviously Peinecker, Paulson, in midfield. I think Strata has been good, and then like Mata, De Vries. They all played their part. So they haven't really been one who's like without him. It just seemed like they've been a squad.
Yeah, and actually that really helps when you sort of look at, I don't know, Douglas Costa at Sydney, just a step above.
Yes.
I know, of course, they've got other players who've played well, but like, it doesn't seem like they've relied on anybody, Auckland, right? It's just been such a solid, and that, I mean, you can get lucky with recruitment, but that shows that they've recruited incredibly well.
Yeah.
From a blank sheet of paper.
Oh, amazing. And like I said, when they set the foundation and that was solid, you could start to see all the other players then all of a sudden bring all their flair and talent that, maybe we didn't see early on. But then, man, I think, Germain has been incredible. Gallegos, I think he was injured for this one. Hopefully he's not...
he got injured against Melbourne City. Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, and then you could go through the whole squad. I mean, they've been excellent.
He's been brilliant as well.
Perth Glory were there, so that's a bonus. Look, it's worth, there are 6 sides that haven't qualified for final. It's worth doing this show, just sort of having a little end of season report card for them, I guess. Bottom of the league, wooden spoon. Thomas, how do we sum up what's happened to Perth?
It's been a tough year for Drillich. I think all the issues early on with getting some overseas players that didn't work out and having to ship them back out and then sort of reset in them, after sort of 5-6 games, I think was tough. I think the positivity, like you've had some players like Pearman, I think has been a bright spot. He obviously, you got some players up front that you can build on, but I think of all teams in the league, I think Perth is probably the team that looks to have the most to do. I think I know that they're doing trying to do some some things behind the scenes, but it's been long. Oliver Sale, obviously, in this last game, he has been a bit up and down, but again, he is a quality keeper on his day. But I think defensively they're just not strong enough, and I think you could look at this game. against Auckland. Like it could have been 5-0 without some brilliant saves. And that's sort of where they are. They had their bright spots, but...
I will say, though, from where Perth have started this season, like from purely football and playing and tactic-wise, has been such an improvement. Like there was a period there I was like, what is going on here? This is not pressing. They're out of line, but they actually seem to be... okay, and I think maybe they've got their squad a little bit better, like you said, the clean out of certain players that just didn't work, and maybe they're starting to get that chemistry right, and then the off season we'll see what happens. It might be a better performance.
Western United, Sydney FC. This result means that Western United can still get second. They're third, 1 point behind Melbourne City. It means Sydney FC have to get a point, don't they, in the last weekend of the season to get into the final six. Look, it was a great start for Western United, and they scored one of those Western United goals, didn't they?
Yeah, no, on the counter, they're great. They're so slick, and when they go forward, I did say that I questioned Sydney, their ability to be able to be consistent, and I don't know. I think I said last week that they might miss out on finals, and if they want to make finals, I think they're pretty much at sort of same level as Adelaide. Like they're just, if they get into the finals, I don't think they'll be in there for very long. But they're missing Klamala, they're missing someone like Senna in the midfield. You can, and I don't know why Joaquim's not starting. He's on the bench. He's someone that you already seen in that second half when they play. As soon as he comes on, he's trying to create stuff. But Sydney just really lacked punch. Even Douglas Costa had an off game. Like some of his passing yesterday, and usually we're so used to seeing him just at another level. Whether I think he's now kind of starting to feel like, what's going on? It's just a bit of inconsistency. But West United, they found a way. They missed, I think, Ibasuki up front. Hopefully they get him back very, very quickly. But good result for West United, which makes for Auckland game good.
Yeah, and it seems like Sydney, it relies too much on sort of individual sparks.
Yeah.
Sekic obviously had a great crack and hit the post. And
he hit that one, didn't he?
Yeah. But again, it seems like like you were saying, he has a crack every time he gets within 40 yards, and he has a great strike. But it's sort of Costa had that chance late on as well. But again, they Devil Smith. I don't know. Bottis will be thinking, what can you do more? That flick from the front, it was a great save. Just instinctive and, kept at least Sydney in it. And you do fear for them. They go to Melbourne City, who has, plenty to play for. They play for Champions League next week. It wouldn't surprise me that Adelaide can just sit there and actually just end up being in finals because... They concede too much, and there's something not quite clicking. And I said they're missing some players as well, and relying too much on Costa coming up with something.
Yeah, and it's been a pretty heavy week for them. Like last couple of weeks, they're on the verge of going to a final for the Champions League Elite 2, and we're thinking, yes, this is a really good chance, and they kind of blow that, and then they're outside the 7. So then and they're missing key players, confidence starts to weigh on a lot of players, and then it looks so disjointed, and you wonder where they're going to find that extra gear, even though that they've got the quality. But it's hard to kind of really spark something when you need it, especially like you said at Melbourne City, where they're really looking at sealing that number 2 position.
Devin Smith had a fun day, didn't he? You mentioned that save, but there was one where, one of the teenagers that writes a little script for us said, Michael Roos rounded the keeper. I was like, well, that is very generous. He was like, those toys that you push at the bottom and they just, and then in the second half, like he made this save and then he couldn't find where the ball was. Like a cat looking for a ping pong ball, wasn't it? When they're just looking around going, where is it? Where's the ping pong ball? He had a great day.
Yeah, I think that the first one is it's just when as a keeper you just take the wrong angle a little bit. You're a little bit too aggressive, and then you sort of get caught and you're trying to, and then obviously he loses his footing and then you're just breathing that it hits the post. The Roos hit the post. The second one, it looks funny, but yeah,
it is really funny because you can imagine the internal panic going, God, I look so stupid, but I do really need to find out where the
bail me out here.
I need to know where the ball is. Like, it's a key part of this game is knowing where it is. So good.
He'll have, but luckily nothing came from it. So that was good, and at least kept them in it.
So who do we think? We'll get to Adelaide in a minute. Obviously, they don't have to do anything now. They just have to sit there. It is a tough game, isn't it? It's just not the game you want.
No, and
Melbourne City, Melbourne
City, even though they drew 0-0, we'll come to it. But they have players that are playing well. They're getting players back, and again, they probably should have won this game against Adelaide. They had plenty of chances. And
how key is coming second?
Massive.
Getting the Champions League because Auckland can't.
I think that's of course you want that bye, and that helps you. But I think it's that Champions League because it's money in the coffers. It means a lot, to the club and the finances and everything. It means you can probably attack next season a little bit more aggressively with players and stuff. It gives you that little bit of, financial security. And so, for Melbourne City, it'd be massive. But for all the others, you got 2 or 3 teams. You got obviously, Western Sydney are in there, Western United. For all of them, they'll be trying to play their chance and hope the City slip up against Sydney.
And Newcastle Jets 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 1. So that means the Wanderers are, they've still got a tiny chance, I guess, of getting that second spot, haven't they? They are on 43 points. Melbourne City on 45. Western Sydney Wanderers have a better goal difference. Obviously, depends on what Western United do as well. But what did you make of this win for Wanderers?
Again, I think Milanovic, capped off, he's been the best player and in this game. He was all over the place. Should have, could have have scored. And, I think, Newcastle, you can see, they were in the game and just so disappointing the way they concede goals. That's sort of been the story of this last month where in plenty of games, I know they could have been, sneaking into finals, but have really let themselves down. And that's sort of playing out from the back and they lose it and get punished, rightly so.
Borrello does really well, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, again, they, you take what you've been given. And I think, Western Sydney, took that chance and won. But they had enough chances, I think, to comfortably win the game. So, you know what, and then like Ryan Stanton Stanton was out there after, and try and go over his time there and how he's built them up, and they are in a good position if they can keep hold of the young players. They've got something to build on, I think, for sure. I don't know what you think, Archie, their prospects of sort of going forward.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think now that they've got the new manager, Mark Milligan, coming in.
Good appointment?
Yeah, great appointment, I think. Yeah. And it'd be good because I know that Millsy knows the game really well. He's been in that assistant role for a while. This is a great opportunity for him to bring his kind of philosophy of football. And, for Newcastle, there's a few players that are coming out of contract. Clayton Taylor is one that you'll be looking to kind of snap up. I think even Timmins is another good one in the middle of the park. I think he's been really good. So it'd be nice to work on those or get them snapped up. But for Western Sydney, what was really, really impressive was the fans. Like the fans that travelled to Newcastle. I mean, their bays were full. We always talk about Western Sydney and you're needing that club to do well because we knew what they were like back in the day when they were successful and the fans were coming. Like probably one of the most electric places to go to was a Western Sydney game because their fans were crazy. You can see that they're getting excited about that. Their away bay was full, and you could see what it meant to them. And they're going to be playing finals football. They'll probably have a full stadium at Combank for their last game. So there's a lot of positives for them. But Newcastle sign a couple of those good players, and Mark Milligan's philosophy comes in, and the end of season, the second half of the season was fantastic. So there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, they seem to be in a good place.
Yes,
with Eli Adams and Bailey. They've got some young talent that they have to keep hold of, and that's the challenge. Because there'll be definitely other clubs trying to snap them up.
We'll miss Robbie Stanton. Where's he? I hope he comes back because you were just saying, is that post-match saying, when I arrived here, it was just tundra and desert. There was nothing as far as the eye could see. There was nothing, and now look at this metropolis. And whoever comes in, it is just there, a golden carpet of success. But that is slightly unfair. I hope he doesn't watch this. But I do apologise.
No, you got to give him credit.
Totally.
We can, I think they're all like you can see all the managers are, who didn't make finals. They're all trying to sell themselves.
Yeah.
And, that's the name of the game. You got to set yourself up for another job or whatever. But yeah, I think he definitely has something in it that he definitely leaves the club in a much better position than they were a year ago. And as I said, Milligan has something to build on.
For Naka Stajic, 11 unbeaten, and they come in and you just, I don't know, they seem to be doing this quietly, as in when we talk about the finals, I don't think anyone's mentioned the chance that they might have.
Yeah, well, they seem to be showing a lot of grit. Like sometimes their performances, maybe in the past, they've dominated and not been able to kill off games or be clinical. This team seems to be like they just know how to win or find a way to get some kind of result, which is great when you're coming into elimination finals football. Like that's where it's like a different level of how you approach the game. And sometimes it's not going to be pretty, but then there's got to be grit. And I think that's what this Western Sydney team has shown with these 11 unbeaten straight games. Like it's not necessarily sometimes pretty, but the way they grind out games is so important coming in the final.
Nicholas Milanovic might be on the verge of signing for Aberdeen.
Yes.
As an interesting sort of pathway, A-League, to Scotland.
It's funny how that's happening.
It has been a stepping stone for a lot of players. And
How dare you look down on the Scottish League by that? It's a mere stepping stone. Stepping stone. That's what it is. So they're fourth in the SPL. I mean, it's an interesting league.
Again, I was actually with a couple of Aberdeen fans.
Some of my best friends are Aberdeen fans.
Yeah, same. So again, they're in the cup final against Celtic, so they're getting the excitement back. So it's a good place to go. They were second in the league for a long time before they've sort of dropped off. So, at least you're going. If he is going to a club that's, seems to be going in the right direction and being sort of at least closer to the top. And you know what, like you gotta, it's hard to break into even the Championship and the Premier League. We've seen a couple of players obviously go to Portsmouth and other places, but you know what, I think, he's shown enough, to at least warrant, I would take a shot. I think he's definitely a quality player and why not?
Aberdeen Beach, Nicholas, by the way, gets a 4.5 rating on Google. Large windy stretch of sand with a promenade and lots of activities and dining nearby. Dogs allowed, Nicholas. I would say it may be slightly chillier than,
bathing 2 days a year.
Yeah. There'll be some who go in every day in Aberdeen, but yeah, you're right. Macarthur 1, Melbourne Victory 2. What do you make of this one?
This game was probably, in terms of something to watch, was good on the eye. Like I thought that Melbourne Victory, especially that team goal, I think, just
sometimes
goals.
But sometimes, footballers make it look so easy.
Yeah,
the way he just caresses that ball is just heavenly.
But I think that's sometimes how you know a really good player is how easy they make the game look. And they look like they have so much time, so difficult to get the ball off, and like he scores goals, and the way that he finished that was just amazing. No wonder he's in the Socceroos squad, and I don't know, like there's a couple of players that I feel we won't be seeing them around for much longer. Definitely Ryan Teague is one of them, and Nishan Balupale. Azani's starting to really hit his straps, that combination between Mashash. I think that ball that Azani played through to Mashash for that, I think it was a boss finish there too, or that might have been the Ryan Teague one.
Like the Rabona.
And actually, Balupale there. Balupale, I just thought miscontrolled it until I watched it and I go, actually, that is such a brilliant touch. Just the awareness of going, I can't score from this, but I can just lay it off.
Just beautiful.
I think that was the highlights of the game. Was just those two plays was worth the whole thing. And yeah, I think definitely the balance, like we talked about last time, where Teague was missing against Auckland. Now he was in midfield. Mashash moved further forward, and then he gets involved a lot more. And MacArthur could have probably snuck back into it. just Economidis getting that goal, and a couple of other chances. Duncan had a great save. That was a 2-0, but that where it gets a deflection, and similar to Devilish Mere's one where it's sort of instinctive. So that at least kept them ahead. So I think victory, as you said, I think they've got players now that are coming into form. Really happy for Asani because it has been a long journey for him, ups and downs, and definitely, coming into finals now, he looks to be, on fire. Hit the post as well. So he's a very, very dangerous one.
And I think a really bizarre set of results could mean they snuck second. Melbourne City obviously play Sydney FC, so they'd need Sydney FC to win that. Western United play Auckland, so Auckland could win that. Where Western Sydney Wanderers, then MacArthur would have to win that. And then Melbourne Victory hammer Newcastle Jets.
Oh, okay.
But you never know, right? You've got to go out there and believe. Yeah. And I don't know, at the start of the season, I thought they looked like the team.
Yeah, no, I think there will be several teams, but especially Victory they play last. So they'll know, if the scores have fallen their way, if they need to win 5-6-0, whatever, to actually make it into second. I think that's their chance.
And look, Arthur Dillers has sort of turned it around, hasn't he? Because it was a bit tricky when Kisnorbo left, who we noticed he went to Japan and we were all like, oh, he's gone in there as a 2, but Steve Holland he's gone straight in. He knew what he was doing, didn't he? Do you reckon he was trying to meddle with everything in there, going, let's get rid of this guy. But look, Arthur Dillers came in, he was under a lot of pressure. They didn't win for a few, didn't they? They were playing okay. So for him to turn this around has been impressive.
Yeah, it's been great. I think, when he came in, there was like 7 games they hadn't won. And to see where they are at, still on the ladder, having that period is pretty fantastic. Look, definitely the belief there that Arthur Dillers has instilled in the team, and he's got his own little flair about what this team looks like and how they're playing. But you got all the quality there. Mashash, Virgos. It was just, I think, trying to negotiate what team he wants to really set out there, because there was like a few options where he was like, oh, should I chop and change? And now it looks like they're going to stick with Virgos up front, Mashash in a dangerous area. They've got Azani, Volupele, and Teagues, Valadon. That's your forward line where you're not tinkering with it. And what he's done with that team's pretty amazing. But I mean, their quality is great anyway.
Yeah, and they've got, like Santos, they've got, Fonroli. They've got people from the bench. It's not like, oh, we've just got a bunch of youngsters. So they actually got, heaps of opportunities, and they can swap it around.
And I think they're coming back. I think Piscopo, he'll be back.
There was a time in the season he was playing so well.
So he's coming back. I think they're going to have all their players back for this final series.
End of season report card for MacArthur, Archer?
Well, look, you have to say that probably a little bit hard done by early on with losing good players overseas. So they did good business in terms of putting money in the bank, but then, the flip side of that is that you're probably going to lose a bit of punch or quality up in the front line. So I think they've managed well to even give themselves an opportunity to make finals, considering the players they lost. So I think it's been a pretty good season, especially too, they also won the Australia Cup. So coming into the season, I felt like if they kept those players that they sold, they would be well in the final. So probably a little bit unlucky, maybe not to make it.
6 out of 10, that's what I'm hearing.
But in a roundabout way, probably 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Again, I think losing Jedru and other players, they were at that time scoring the top scorers and everything, and to be overcoming that, I think Yakelis has been amazing. I think he's got one of the most assists in A-League history. You always got Luke Braddon, and then they've been able to somehow implement Harrison Sawyer, getting him on the score sheet. So they've done their best, but it's tough when you lose some of your best players mid-season.
Sure. Let's talk about Adelaide United, right? They had a game midweek. They drew with Melbourne City 0-0 at the weekend. After that 1-1 draw at Brisbane Roar. That is so frustrating. There were times in the season when they were playing really well.
Yes.
And to just... if they could have got one win out of those two, it just changes the whole dynamic of what Sydney FC have to do at the weekend. Yeah. And so they're sitting there thinking, just from somewhere win one of those two games.
Yeah, and they really set themselves up with that last minute winner from Goodwin at home to go to Brisbane and they were leading that match too. to really put pressure on Sydney and cement themselves really in that 6. But like I said, they've just let themselves down really in crucial moments of the season. It's crazy to see that they were halfway through the season, they were right up the top there and playing probably some of the best football out of all the A-League teams. And then, a big drop, and then also the talk about Carl Viet and him not taking on the role next season. It's going to put a lot of pressure, not just on himself, but the players. So there is hope. Sydney have to go to City to win, get some kind of result. I don't know if they can do that. So it'd be a really crazy story for them to even just limp into this final series. But I think, like I said before, they'll get in there. I don't know if they'll go too far, because losing Archie Goodwin for me is I don't think they've got many goals in them without having Archie Goodwin there, and that might just, if they make finals, won't get them far.
Yeah, I don't know what the backstory was, but it was surprised to me that Zach Clough and Goodwin didn't play in Brisbane.
Yeah,
because for me, that was the game where they
just go and win that.
Yes,
go and win that, then set yourself up. Maybe, it's the midweek game. You're in travel and everything else, but for me, it's like you just got to put out your strongest team and put the foot on the pedal. And I think
maybe they just thought Brisbane are on a real roll here. 1 win from 1 at home. This is a fortress.
You know what? Like that's I think for Brisbane, and they have been able to do some good business. I think
Abubakar's been great. Yeah,
Klein. Henry Hoare, so they've suddenly, definitely look a lot better. Abubakar, I think, has been he's been a great spark in this one, and suddenly you get Berengay, who hasn't really featured, has been injured, and he comes up. So they knew before the game that this is a Brisbane team that probably wasn't the Brisbane team 2 or 3 months ago. So but obviously there must be a reason. Maybe there was concerns about injuries. I'm not sure, but that was just a bit weird to me.
And then in the last minute, Dylan Pereas has that chance. Patrick Beach takes it full in the face, doesn't he?
You know what?
That's a good save.
It's a great save. Because he stood up. It's easy sometimes as a keeper, you end up going too low, and he actually he did really well, and he had nothing to do, more or less. So I think that's what you need your keeper to do, and Patrick Beach has been great for most of the season. He hasn't, he had a couple of the derbies where he made 1 or 2 mistakes, but other than that, I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that was just one. Again, it still goes back to that Brisbane game, because I thought getting a draw from the Melbourne City game was a good result.
Yeah,
and look, they still keep themselves alive by getting a result.
Of course,
at
that's
Melbourne
important.
City. Oh well, we'll quickly say about Max Vituli. I thought he was outstanding, and for a goalkeeper, and you can probably vouch for this. He came in and he's made a couple of howlers, and then he actually has kept them in finals contention. With there was one save that he made to his left-hand side that he had to be very, very
I think
good
it was a Tilio that sort of caught inside, and he's a little bit onside, so it actually it's a great save.
So he had a great performance, and that might kind of push all those mistakes away and thinking, okay, yes, I did really well. I've kept my team in it, opposed from like knocking my team out with some of the decisions he's made. But I thought that was really great for him.
Yeah, and also what Carl Verd said afterwards. He said they obviously told him that, you playing to the end of the season. So at least, having that backing, and, then that makes it easier to overcome, because you don't feel that instant pressure of, okay, maybe next week, am I playing next week? He had said to him, you're playing for the rest of the season. We need to see what we've got. And, again, sometimes, even, Gauchi and, when he came in, young players he's only 20 years old. So young players do make mistakes.
And it just gets magnified because it's a
and you got to
goalkeeper,
find your feet. And, again, they're trying to make finals. So everything gets, as I said, magnified. But this was a good stepping stone for him. And if they make finals, it's another chance to build on that.
Brisbane at the weekend beat Wellington Phoenix 1-0. Brilliant goal Brisbane scored in this game.
It's that combination. O'Shea passes into Abubakar, whose touches have been great. Yeah. But the flick on, but I thought that Berengay's first touch to get him onto his left was beautiful. That just shows his quality. And boom, I mean, that's 2 goals and 2 for him. And what an unbelievable finish. I don't think there's too much that the Wellington goalkeeper could do.
Abubakar's made such an impact, doesn't he? I was just looking, where he came from. He's been in the Eredivisie. He's been in Belgium. He's been in Switzerland for the last few years. But yeah, 66% of Raw's points have come since he arrived. 4 goals, 2 assists. They've won 4, 3 of the wins when he's been there. And that is such a great impact, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what's impressive is that he's come in and he's played with real passion, and he's revitalized the team. And I think just his energy and just his willingness to run and hassle as well. He's obviously got the quality, but he's also shown the work ethic and sort of dragged everyone around him with him. So yeah, and I think again, Sadkovic obviously came out afterwards and were talking about they actually tried to sign Archie Goodwin for 90,000, and that
just to be clear, that's paying 90,000. That's his wages rather than a transfer.
Yeah. So it's 90,000 for the year, and so which isn't it's hard to attract foreign players, even Australian players from other cities. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can keep these players for next year. Can they get the group together and then build on it, maybe add a few more, or will it be back to lose 3 or 4 and then you're back to square one? That would be that would be the challenge.
Let's talk about Wellington Phoenix. I mean, they did me because they said, they went out and said, we'll be making a statement about Chiefy tomorrow. And I was like, well, just tell him he's gone today, for goodness sake. What are you all doing? And then they went, oh, he's re-signed. I was like, oh, look, fair play to the guy. He's obviously loved there. He's done so well there previously. They've not been good this season. No. So I don't know what you make of him getting a new deal and what they have to do, because it feels to me like they've been really flat this year.
Yeah, they have. And key players have been injured in terms of how Chiefy wanted to play. And I actually, because I think Chiefy's a great guy and a good manager. And I just thought when I heard this announcement, I'm thinking, he's probably going to be moved on. And then, bang, he's got another year, which is good. And then, so hopefully he can turn what is around. But they're going to be losing Wooten in the back, Sam Sutton. I mean, they're already 2 key players in terms of the one going forward and one adding a bit of stability in the back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think Costa Barbarouses has carried. He's and can he keep doing that? Got Ishike, I think has been good. Rufa has had injury problems, but it's one of them that they have to overcome and have to fight back against. Auckland have totally steamrolled them, and I hope that they're willing to spend a bit, and Chiefy has to come up with something at least to try to punch back in that sort of New Zealand market, but also in the A-League, because after making the finals and semi-finals last year, it has really been a little bit like Central Coast, just
Let's just finish on Central Coast. Is that the best review of their season? Just or should we expand on it a tiny bit?
For me, it's the players. The players that they lost, they just haven't been able to recruit and have that same impact or quality like they did last year. And that's been pretty much the story of Central Coast. And too, when you're trying to manage Asian Champions League football with a squad that's not as good as what it was last year, it was always going to be very, very tough. And when you've got a team that doesn't score goals, and defensively they haven't been too bad. I think they haven't really let too many goals in or really got blown out. But when you're not scoring goals, I think when your top goal scorer is only got 2 or 3 goals or 4, and no one's really kind of stepping up. It was always going to be a hard season, and it was a bit of a slog for Central Coast.
Yeah, and I think, again, for Central Coast, they probably punched above their weight.
Their biggest mistake was winning it.
Yeah. No. You win it. That's going to stay with you forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do after. I think it's always tough. When you win it, as you said, players are in the spotlight. They get dragged off. Now Caltech will probably leave.
Yeah.
So that's another big one that need to... Sainsbury, I don't know what his situation.
Done his Achilles.
Yeah, Achilles. So he'll be out potentially for parts of next year. And can he come back to the same level? So they'll be in a similar situation next year, and will have to rely on their academy. But again, they've succeeded in the past, and it seems to at least McCalmont, they've been able to bring in some players from overseas, and so their scouting has been pretty good. So that's what they need to rely
on. Right. So look, Wellington, Perth, Central Coast play Brisbane, Melbourne City, Sydney FC, Western United, Auckland FC, Macarthur versus Western Sydney Wanderers, and the Victory play Newcastle Jets over Friday, Saturday, Sunday next weekend. The questions are: who comes second, City, Western United, or Melbourne Victory?
Oh, you would want to be in City's shoes, because like you play at home. A win will guarantee you second place. Yeah, I'm banking on City. I think they've been good enough, and they are good enough to beat Sydney.
Which means that Adelaide make the sixth then.
Yeah, if that's what it is.
That's what it is. Do you go along with that?
Yeah, I think Sydney showed. Melbourne City showed a lot, but just didn't finish against Adelaide. So, and the way that Sydney are defending at the moment. I see that very hard for Sydney to get a result. So, Adelaide sneak in for me.
On Wednesday, Vince Rugari, Tommy Orr have total A-leagues. Then Daniel Georgievski and the wild man of Australian football broadcasting, Nick Stoll. Hey, Nick. They do the warm-up. That is on Thursday, but that'll do. We've had a nice time. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Archie. We'll see you next week.